So we've talked about some of the most important skills and attributes for assassins in AC to have, but something that may often be overlooked is how well equipped an assassin is. Their weaponry, tools, and different gadgets, and for some, even armor. Today we're going to be discussing who's the best equipped assassin in the series. As always, I'm talking about the protagonists of the series who were assassins, and due to high request, I shall now include Adewale from Freedom Cry and Aveline from Liberation, since they are indeed assassin protagonists, even if they don't have their own mainline games. Plus, I think it'll be fun to include them. Now, as for this discussion, we're going to be comparing these lovely assassins on the equipment they carry, whether it's weapons, tools, armor, etc. I actually went through and made a list of the gear each assassin has. However, we're not going to be looking strictly at the number of tools and weaponry, but also at the variety and quality of equipment. Assassins get thrown into a lot of crazy situations, so it's important to have a vast variety of gear and tools at their disposal to handle and adapt to any situation thrown at them. I'm not going to go over every little piece of gear each assassin has, because I think that'll get redundant, but rather the most important and effective ones, and of course just how much equipment each assassin has, because some have boatloads of equipment while others carry a very light amount. Also, it's worth pointing out that each of these assassins live in different time periods, so it's pretty cool to see how their equipment differs as technology advances. But starting with the oldest of the bunch, we have Bayek, who is one of the least equipped assassins in the series, believe it or not. Part of that may be because Origins stripped out a lot for its new formula, especially involving assassin tools, but it also makes sense since Bayek is effectively the first assassin, or hidden one, same thing, you know what I mean. He lives in an era well before the other assassins, and quite simply, a lot of that technology isn't possible yet. Bayek, of course, has a hidden blade, a variety of different melee weapons, multiple different kinds of bow and arrow, and sleeping darts. He can poison bodies, and he's one of the few assassins to wear some sort of armor, and the only one who uses a shield in combat. As I said, he's one of the least equipped, but he makes do with what he has, of course. Next is Altair, who again is actually one of the less equipped assassins of the series, but he's perhaps the most effective with the limited equipment he has. Altair has his single hidden blade, a sword, a short blade, and perhaps his most useful tool, the throwing knives. It's especially handy that he can use the short blade and throwing knives at the same time, but he has a very light kit in comparison to the others. Again, you could say that's because AC1 was the first game and it was meant to be simpler, and there weren't the resources to give him all these different tools. I mean, the poor guy even got his crossbow stripped away from him before launch, so Ubisoft kind of screwed over Altair on that one. Oh, and he did also invent the hidden gun well before the technology was even possible, thanks to the apple. He uses it at the end of Revelations. But anyways, it makes you respect Altair's skills as an assassin even more, considering just how limited his arsenal was in comparison to the other assassins. Ezio, on the other hand, well, let's just say he's the Batman of assassins with a ridiculous amount of tools at his disposal. He's the first assassin protagonist in this series to wield the double hidden blades, a fashion trend he set for many other assassins in the series, and courtesy of Leonardo and the Codex pages, he had some of the most advanced weaponry, getting the hidden gun long before that kind of technology was even possible, and this thing is crazy. How is he so accurate with a gun on his forearm? Especially in Brotherhood and Revelations, he can shoot that thing so fast, reload at light speed, and he combos it with his melee combat. Ezio literally had real-life aimbot. Of course, he had plenty of other OP projectiles as well, like the crossbow. Sorry, Altair, Ezio stole that from you. Throwing knives and poison darts, which is arguably the most overpowered projectile in all of Assassin's Creed. Ezio had smoke bombs, and in Revelations, all sorts of different bombs you could craft and use for a variety of effects and purposes, and he got the hook and poison blades. The hook blade helped in parkour and traversal, along with taking down enemies in more creative ways. Oh yeah, and he even had a parachute. Talk about being prepared for every possible scenario. Ezio is certainly a contender for the best equipped assassin. Despite Edward not being an assassin for a majority of Black Flag, he still had quite a few of their weapons and tools at his disposal. He too had the double hidden blades, the blowpipe which could shoot sleeping and berserk darts, smoke bombs and rope dart, and he was absolutely overkill with the number of weapons on his person, using dual wielded swords and carrying 4 pistols. Again, a bit overkill, but it looks very cool, so we'll give him some style points there. He doesn't have nearly as many tools and weapons as Ezio. In fact, even his sword choice is quite limited. I wouldn't say he's the best equipped, but he has a cool kit, and that counts for something, I guess. But what about his first mate and friend, Adewale? Adewale has a lot of the same tools as Edward, being from the same era, and the fact that Freedom Cry is a DLC for Black Flag, but Adewale actually has some of my favorite weapons in the series. He has the smoke bombs, blowpipe, rope dart, and double hidden blades like Edward, except he does have the firecrackers, which are essentially just used as a lure. However, instead of the dual swords and quadruple pistol combo, he has a machete and the blunderbuss, which is basically a shotgun. I absolutely love using both of these weapons. The machete's animations are so badass, and the blunderbuss allows you to take out entire groups of enemies with one shot. Adewale has some of the coolest weapons in the series in my opinion, and is arguably even better equipped than Edward. Connor also has some very cool equipment. His main weapon is the tomahawk, which is one of my favorite weapons in the series, and fits well with his character being a Native American. He has the double hidden blades as well, except he actually detaches one of them and uses it like a knife whilst in combat, which I always thought looked awesome. He also uses a bow and arrow, again fitting his character as a native and a hunter, as well as a pistol. As for tools, he has the usuals like smoke bombs and rope darts, and he uses poison darts similar to what Ezio had. Then he has 2 other tools unique to him specifically, the snares for hunting and the trip mine, which is actually very strong if used properly. Funnily enough, he actually has a lot more weapons and tools at his disposal than Edward, which I find strange since Black Flag came out after AC3, but maybe you could chalk that up to him being an assassin in a more modern time period in colonial America. Regardless, Connor is definitely a front runner for best equipped assassin, and he has some of my favorite tools in the series that were for some reason or another stripped out in Black Flag. Surprisingly, Aveline has fewer tools and weapon selection than Connor, despite Liberation's gameplay being so similar. Aveline doesn't have the rope dart, bow and arrow, or the tools specific to Connor, which I guess makes sense since she isn't a native like him. However, she does have one unique tool at her disposal, the whip, which she can use in combat. And she of course has smoke bombs, a pistol, double hidden blades, and the blowpipe with poison and berserk darts. She even uses an umbrella as the projectile device when in the lady persona, which is very stealthy. The most unique thing about Aveline's equipment is how she can change through the different personas to blend into different areas and environments better. However, just in the pure number of tools and weapons and quality of them, she's definitely on the lower side compared to the other assassins of the series. Arno is a very interesting one. He doesn't have a massive quantity of weapons and tools, but he has some of my favorites in the series. The big one is the Phantom Blade, which is unique to him. It looks awesome and is very strong and fun to use in Unity. I really wish they would have brought it into Syndicate instead of the throwing knives, but oh well. Arno also has the Berserk Blades, Smoke Bombs, Cherry Bomb Lures, Poison Bombs, and Stun Grenades. A lot of his tools are unique to him for the most part, and at the time, he was also the first assassin since Altair to feature the singular hidden blade, as opposed to the double hidden blades a lot of the assassins after Altair used. It's worth mentioning that there are Animus hack features in Unity, like Disguise, for example, that's very strong, but again, those are Animus hacks, it's not actual equipment that Arno had, so those won't count here. But overall, Arno has some very effective tools, even if he doesn't have the sheer amount and variety that some of the other assassins do. As always, I'm going to bundle the Frye Twins together here since they use the same tools, although their weapons do differ slightly. The twins have the Assassin Gauntlet, which is a very useful all-in-one gauntlet that features a hidden blade, a rope launcher, which is very useful for controversial and hallucinogenic darts, which is just a fancy new name for berserk darts. And to replace the phantom blade Arno has, the twins use throwing knives, which in my opinion is far less effective. They also have the traditional smoke bombs, pistols, and a voltaic bomb that electrocutes enemies in its vicinity and is unique to Syndicate. Again, like Arno, they have some nice unique tools and weapons like the rope launcher, but don't have the same stock as some assassins mentioned previously. So a lot of these assassins have very similar equipment, while others are completely different. If there's anything I realized by making this video, is how inconsistent the tools and equipment are across the games, and that essentially every game after Revelations just had fewer and fewer assassin tools, all the way to the new games where there are barely any. But to me, it's pretty obvious who the best equipped assassin is, and that's Ezio. I know, people are gonna be tired of seeing Ezio win so many of these videos, but he by far has the most varied quantity of tools throughout the games and some of the most fun gadget ideas and mechanics in the series. As I said, he's basically Batman, and by Revelations, he had such a massive selection of tools and weapons at his very whim, which I think makes sense because I've always believed Ezio to be the most well-rounded and versatile assassin in the series, and his equipment allows him to adapt to a variety of situations. I mean, let's not forget that time he used a hang glider. But honorable mentions to Connor and Adewale, who have some of my favorite weaponry and tools in the series. Connor has a lot of fun, unique equipment that only he has, and that machete shotgun combo with Adewale is just so deadly. But you know the drill. This is my opinion. Let me know who you think the best equipped assassin is and why. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you left a like and considered subscribing to the channel if you're new. I've made so many of these kinds of videos by now. I have an entire playlist if you'd like to check it out. Click the card in the top right. And leave some suggestions for what category you'd like me to compare the assassins of the series on next. Other than that, thanks for watching everybody, and have a great rest of your day, assassins.